Songkran is one of the biggest holidays in Thailand, but celebrations this year look a bit different. Because of the Iran war, fuel prices are much higher, and that means people aren't traveling home to see their families for the new year. But also, it has an impact on tourists who usually fly in for this huge party.
Songkran, happy Songkran, baby!
So, are tourists still coming back? And is Thailand's heavy reliance on tourism sustainable? I'm Mariko in Singapore, and this is Asia Pacific from the BBC World Service. Twice a week, we bring you Asia Pacific stories, unpacked by those who know them best. And today I have Panisa Amosha, a reporter for the BBC World Service in Thailand, as well as Kyatanand Longkyo, an economics professor at the Thammasat University, who's usually based in Bangkok but joins me now in Singapore. Welcome both to Asia Pacific.
Thank you. And say hi
Thank
to you
you.
in Singaporean.
So Panisa, let's start with you. Let's start with painting the picture of what exactly Songkran is. When did it start? What does it mean? Just paint the picture for us.
Okay, so in order for me to paint the pictures, let me first say Happy Songkran or Suksanwan Songkran to you both and also to audiences who are watching us. But okay, the word Songkran itself is actually stem from Sanskrit language. It's actually meaning the movement of the sun to the new astrological position, and to be more precise, is from the Pisces to the Aries. What does that mean? I mean, that's up to interpretations. But Songkran is actually a tradition that fall between 13th to 15th of April of every year. It is actually the hottest month and hottest seasons of Thailand. And in the past, these traditions coincide with the post-harvest period of Thai back then, and a lot of Thai agriculture. We are still are, and those older generation, they try to come up with some activity to relax after they did their hard work with the crop and with the harvest. So they do some activity, and it's hot, right? It was hot. It is still hot. So the water come in handy. In the past, we put scented water. This is some of the example of the scented water. I use it in the morning at my house, so you can see it's a bit empty. So you put some scented waters in like a bowl of water, and then you pour it to the elder. So with Songkran, you pour this water to the elder, you give them blessing. The family would go to temples in the past. We still do nowadays. But then when time went on, decades went on, from pouring water, it become with super soaker. It's become splashing. It's become like a street wide and water fight that a lot of foreigners are known about Songkran as well. It's quite unique to Southeast Asians.
So, Professor, as Panisa said, this is a cultural tradition, but attracting quite a lot of tourists as well. I want to talk about that as well. But domestically as well, people travel within Thailand as well, don't they? So how much does this festival contribute to the economy generally, and how has it kind of affected, how has it been affected because of the ongoing war in Iran?
Usually, Songkran Festival is where people go back to their hometowns and they bring back incomes and present and all the resources. So it's kind of redistribution back to where they were. You see a lot of traffic jams, people stuck on road for maybe a day or maybe a day and a half just to get home. And millions of people are moving back. In economic terms, you're bringing back resources. It's important for the regional economy. We see a lot of economic activity picking up after that, a month or two. So that's quite significant. But for the oil price hike now, which put a lot of petrol costs, it's hard for them to travel.
Panisa, you talked about foreigners coming to this festival, but what's in it for them if it's a traditional, Buddhist festival?
I mean, people do love Thailand, and I could say that. I mean, of course, everybody experiences is different, and the price in Thailand has been increased. So a lot of foreigners actually complain that is not achieved as in the part. But if we put that on layer, the foundation is Thailand is a destination for many people to come for traveling, to spend their holiday, and you put on top of that a festival. I already mentioned in the first question that the tradition itself or the festival itself has developed over the years, and it's become like steeped for like water fight. But you gotta understand that this is a big festival, and the government and the private sector also pour in money idea to attract more tourists. So you have this element. Thailand is hot, and if you get an excuse to take off your shirt but not too sexy, okay, that's against the law, not too sexy. Okay, bikini is prohibited, but you can wear a little bit of a tank top, and you walk in the street, and there's water and the foam party, and we're talking about DJ State. We have ADM. I mean, coincidentally, we have Coachella in the US, but if you don't want to go to Coachella, you can come to Thailand, to Bangkok, to Chiang Mai, even to Hat Yai might be the destination for Singaporean or Malaysian. So this is a very fun activity.
But Professor, I guess airfare has gone up because of this war as well. Are there any indications, are there any worries among the Thai government officials that maybe tourist numbers might actually fall this year?
It will fall after the Songkran festival because the impact takes time to realize in full scale the cost of living at their home countries, the petrol price, because many of them purchased ticket before the festival, before the war. But after this, the price increase will affect the tourism sector drastically, I would say, especially because we rely on international tourists for the main source of income for our economy.
Yeah, I want to get to that later in this episode. But Panisa, you were saying how this festival has evolved to, I guess, meet the demand of those tourists. How do locals feel about so many tourists coming to this festival? And if you can just talk us through some of maybe negative consequences of Songkran.
I think for us Thai people, we are aware and we are expecting foreigners to flock in. The more the merrier. At this levels, it's a very typical Thai manners. Whatever activity you have, we gotta have food. And we're talking about just normal people. Doesn't have to be those who already own a restaurant. They see the opportunity and they want to like open food store. And might I add that when I was younger, a lot younger, I used to open a food store to sell rice and like omelets as well for like 10 baht and 20 baht back in the day when I was in high school. It was super fun. But yes, I think in general, we know that foreigner will come and we love it because Professor already mentions that Thailand rely heavily on tourism and this is the big day, the big event that people are actually planned for it. So it's normal. But when you talk about consequences or maybe negative, that disrupt normal people day of living. Songkran itself kind of disrupt the normal daily life for those who still working. Like for example, if you come to Thailand, if you don't take the BTS or the SkyTrain, majority of the time you would take a motorbike. And if you have to go to work, you will need to tell people who waiting on the pedestrian who gonna shoot you with a super soccer. Like I did it first time. I was like, oh please, I'm working, and they could tell from your outfit, but like, it's like please, I'm working, and that's kind of a funny things. And the BTS is packed and it's wet, but I think in general, the season itself, the festival itself, people can bear the negative consequences. But if we talk about over tourism coming in, we can go deeper later.
So, Professor, you mentioned how the Thai economy relies heavily on tourism. Can you just give us an idea of how many percentage in comparison to manufacturing, agriculture?
So let's say 1/3 of our economy is driven by manufacturing sector. About 15% is from tourism and about 10% from agriculture. So these three sectors combined occupy over half of our economy.
And in terms of tourism being such a huge part of the economy, was it a deliberate policy by the Thai government to boost tourism, to, I guess, rely on tourism?
Of course, we are relying on it even more after COVID because tourism sector is the only sector where you get money right away. Once the tourists step into the country, you export something, it takes 6 months to get the real cash back into the country. Investment take maybe 18 months, but tourism sector, once the tourists step in, money coming in with them. So it's the quickest way to boost the economy. And it has this redistributive power. They go to smaller provinces, they go to food store like Pranisa used to run a store as a manager of the small store, the food store. That's kind of money going into people's hand quickly. And that's why we prefer tourists for the short-term boost of our economy. But over tourism is not the only problem that happened from tourist sector. It's a cost of living. When we have tourists coming in, the cost of living in that area is higher, and it push costs higher. It reduces the competitiveness of that area in particular.
Can you just help us define what the term over-tourism is? Because we hear that phrase quite a lot, but it doesn't just mean a lot of tourists, too many tourists, is it?
Normally, when we look at over tourism, we look at the infrastructure capacity, whether it can handle that much of people for a long time without, reducing the quality of the service. Secondly, it's about social impact to the community. Does it change the way people live forever? Or in the short run, it's okay, but if it changes permanently, that's not good. Ecosystem capacity, how the environment takes the effects and whether it can recover from it. So these three angles are the key to defining over tourism. If they fall apart, then we definitely have a problem over tourism.
Panisa, you mentioned over tourism as well, but the professor talked about the cost of living crisis and so on as well. How do locals feel about this issue of over tourism? Because there are certain sectors of the society which face probably more negative consequences of over tourism than others.
So tourism can also translate in a lot of foreigners coming in and live in the area as well. I'll bring you down to Phuket. Over from 2004 to 2005 to 2025, with this spans of like 20 years, we're talking about the rent price that increased at least 10% annually, and the price is now served for foreigners, served for dollars, served for Chinese yuan, served for all the currencies that's not Thai currency or Thai baht. And what this means is people who live there for generations cannot afford to live there anymore. And to put it in perspective, the high-end transactions of property, over 60% in Phuket alone, is foreigner. You can see that this is unaffordable. We have land developers who's like levels of billionaire who build this wedding destination, and then we have people who cannot afford to live in their own house anymore.
Professor, you talked about how when the infrastructure can't cope with the number of foreigners, tourists coming in, that's one of the definitions of over tourism. If relying a lot on tourism to boost the economy was the government's policy, are they also doing something to make sure that infrastructure, appropriate infrastructure is in place?
The budgetary process takes at least 2 years before the allocation would take place and a year to build it. So it's like 3 year lags behind the number of tourists. It's hard to cope with the increased demand. It can come, overnight or in a few months, and then some place become popular and people flock in. But money for building infrastructure takes at least 3 years to build that. That's the bottleneck we are facing right now.
Professor talked about COVID pandemic and how that affected tourism numbers, not just in Thailand but around the world. But Panisa, now we have a number of Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam, which are also becoming quite popular with foreign tourists. So if over-tourism is such a big issue, is that actually a good thing that maybe some of the tourists are going to other countries, or does the Thai government still want to keep attracting more and more tourists?
I mean, that's $1 billion or billion Thai baht questions, right? And professors already mentions that we need quick money because our economy hasn't actually rebounded to the levels of pre-pandemic. And if we're talking number, the year before pandemics, the Thailand have foreigner tourists almost 40 million, and ever since then we never reached that number. The government really pushed to that number, but for some reasons we never reach to that number. And we have actually the reason, and the short answer is the Chinese tourists. Before pandemic, we have host a lot of Chinese tourists, and now they still travels, even though there's a lot of purchasing power strain in China itself with their economy. But the Chinese tourists are still traveling. But then they don't come to Thailand anymore. They go to elsewhere. They go to Vietnam. The dong is cheaper, and there's a lot more infrastructure in Vietnam. The Vietnamese government also pushing for tourism as well. I mean, they go to Japan, they go to elsewhere. But if you're looking into Thailand itself, so when a lot of Chinese tourists come, right? Let me paint the picture. If they come to Bangkok, one of the things that become like a very popular trend for quite some time is they love to dress up in Thai school uniform, right? And then taking pictures, or they come here and they take Thai traditional dress and then they taking pictures. But if you come here every year, like how often you want to do the same activity. So a lot of tourism in Thailand also is like trying to figure out how to make Thailand feel like a destination.
Do you think, though, I mean, the fact that the Thai economy relies, as you said, 15% of the economy relies on tourism, is it sustainable to keep relying on tourism if they can achieve what you just mentioned in terms of making it somewhere that a lot of foreigners, tourists want to keep going back to?
Thailand is too big as a country to rely on just one sector. Tourism might be a good starting point for a certain area, but you can't expect it to run the whole economy because we have 77 provinces and some of them are just like similar. When you drive past one province to another, you don't see the difference. So it cannot be the main engine for the long run growth of the economy. It can supplement. That's why it's just 15%. Manufacturing sector, that's about 35%. Agricultural sector could be expanded to be like 15 or 20%, and then you can medical tourism, other high-tech technology. I think we should be looking at those sectors. Well, tourism can be a supplementary economy that help to smooth out the economy during fluctuation time or when we need quick cash to boost the economy.
How should the Thai government achieve that? Because I'm assuming out of all those provinces, some places are extremely popular and facing over tourism issues, whereas other provinces may have almost under tourism issues. So how do you balance that?
Okay, so we have to accept the fact that we cannot make every province a tourist destination. So focus on what they're doing, what they're good at. They are like, for example, in Thailand, there are 9 creative cities designated by UNESCO, capitalize on that. And then other provinces, you look at other alternative measures like improving agricultural sector productivity or manufacturing investment or maybe service sector. There are many other things that you can do to expand and achieve a more balanced economy. During COVID, we have learned learned it the hard way that relying on the tourist sector is painful. We never thought that there'll be zero tourists coming into Thailand. So we built everything on the trend because when you look at that trend 15 years back, it's positive growth, 15-20% growth straight. And we were too optimistic.
Panisa, I'm going to let you go back to playing with your water guns. Thank you so much for joining me, Panisa and Professor Kiatanand.
Yes, my pleasure.
สุขสันต์วันสงกรานต์ค่ะ
You've been watching Asia Pacific from the BBC World Service with me, Marie Goy, in Singapore. If you have any questions or thoughts on what we covered in this episode or any other stories from the region, please leave us a comment below. You can also get in touch with us on email, asiapacific@bbc.co.uk, and click like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. See you next time!